Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, author of Visualizing Happiness in Every Area of Your Life and host of this podcast, Incredible Life Creator. And today I have with me Deanne Broggi. Hey, Deanne.
Hi, how are you?
I am great. So happy to have you from Texas. And just so people can kind of know you, I'm going to read your short bio. So, Deanne Broggi is the founder of the Unbridled Woman. She is a wealth, health, and feminine power mentor. Deanne helps women break free financially, physically, and energetically. Through her own journey of deep healing, financial empowerment, and radical self trust, she discovered what it truly means to be unbridled. So, tell us about you. Tell us your story.
Yeah, well, I think what I like to relate to is that statement of that your mess is your message, right? So I definitely, what has transpired in my life is how I show up for other people, which I'm sure is very similar to a lot of people out there who are in the helping world here. So I I am the only child and grew up in New England. So I'm a transplant here in Texas. I've been in Texas here for, going on 15 years, so still a good chunk of time. And I went to college and I got the degree and I got the career and I had all those boxes that were kind of checked off. That there was always something that kind of, I didn't feel like I was the kind of person to be put into a box of something, like of almost kind of a rebel in a way. But there was also that part of me is like, I have to follow the rules, right? The rebel wasn't strong enough to come out yet. And so after college, I got a degree in finance, economics and finance. And then I got a corporate job. And I did that for about 4 years or so. And it just wasn't being aligned with really who I felt I was. And I knew I was there to help people, definitely, but I felt it was just more on a personal level. So I did what my parents probably weren't really happy about, or my husband at the time, but I quit my corporate job and I went to become a massage therapist. And there was an ulterior motive there as well, as just helping people, but also I knew I wanted to have my husband and I at the time, we wanted to have kids. So I felt like that would be a perfect part-time thing I could always do. Well, 30 years later, I had a massage business and it was beautiful. I truly felt like this is what my calling, this is what I'm meant to be. And then about 10 years ago, I found myself in the middle of a divorce. So I had been married for 23 years. And the divorce, I don't like to say this because it kind of gives a victim mode, but it's true. It was a surprise to me. I didn't really see it coming. And so for me, it was one of those, the whole breakdown right now of my whole life, my family, my home, my career. And I think most impactful was my identity, because I really didn't know who to trust anymore. Do I trust myself? I didn't see this coming. I trust this person I thought I was going to spend the whole life with. And it was really this come to Jesus moment of, who am I and what do I do from here? And it was a time where I think I found my strength. And I guess I always had this in me, like picking myself up. But I picked myself up, like, what am I, finding out what I'm going to do. And I've always been the type of person to kind of follow the breadcrumbs. You see something you're interested in, you do that, and then see how that leads. So I dabbled a little bit in real estate. And I think for me, studying and actually passing and getting my license was what I was meant to do. I wasn't really meant to be a realtor. I was meant to have that experience of, I can do something big for myself, right? So, so the real estate I didn't quite align with again, and then I went into women's coaching, and I felt like that was really, because I had gotten such a transformative experience studying to be a women's empowerment coach, and I just wanted to pay that forward. And so it was just these little pieces of the puzzle, but not the whole picture. And then I guess it was 2 years ago, I sat down with a friend of mine because I was getting very concerned about my retirement in my retirement funds and seeing them kind of dwindle in the stock market. And she was able to teach me and show me different ways on how to actually secure them. And when I found that out, I think it brought back my own old finance roots as well. And it was just this light bulb that went out. I was like, this is what women need. Women, not only this education, but someone to walk with them through that, right? Someone who has been through it. So it's like a hand in hand, heart to heart walk through. It's this empowerment way. So that's how really the Unbridled Woman got born, because it's basically it's me. It's all aspects of me. It's what I know through the finance, what I've been learning more and more. And then my intuitive side with being a massage therapist, working with emotions and energy and that stuff. And then also the work I've done to become more empowered and embodied. So it's kind of like this encasement. And then it's my pay forward in helping women really become unbridled in their light, confident enough, secure in their finances, and just, just being I guess, a inspiration, or a lighthouse of there's possibility after a traumatic experience. Like there's always ways you can pick yourself up and find that inner strength within you. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
So now where we are today, are you working with women in all these areas then?
Yes, yeah. I concentrate more on the financial aspect of it, protecting their assets and creating generational wealth for them and their families. Because, I mean, really, I guess that for me, it's my work tends to be, I guess, kind of in the lower chakra area, the root security, the sacral sensuality, and then the empowerment of the solar plexus. So, and also trying to add into that, the inspiration too of, mindset and spirituality.
So when it comes to finances, what are some of the main things people should be looking at or planning for?
Yeah, well, so for me, and because even though I had a finance degree, and I hear this from a lot of people who study finance, and even my financial advisor that I had, I mean, she actually fired me because I decided to go this other way. But what I learned was the vehicle of life insurance, actually, and how life insurance is, it's not so much what it is, it's what it does. And learning that that's how all the rich people, the ones who survived all of the Great Depression, they had all their money in life insurance. All the banks have all their assets in life insurance. And it's one of those things that's not taught to us in mainstream education. And once I got more information about that, I was able to, for me, take my 401k and put it into a vehicle that when I need it in 7 to 10 years, if I want to retire or if I want to take it out then, basically I create a pension for myself. So monthly income guaranteed until I leave this earth, which is, to me, that gave me a peace of mind and a big off my shoulders.
Exactly. That is so important because we are living longer. Hopefully it's because we're taking care of ourselves. There's better health care. And so, you know, retiring at 65 when you might live to be 95, that's a lot of years.
Yes,
24.
absolutely. Absolutely. And, if anything with finances, it's nice to have diversification as well. But, I'm 56, so I wasn't in a lot of big time to grow be aggressive with money. So for me, putting it into a vehicle that gets gets a percentage return of what the market is, but I don't have any of the losses of when the market goes down. I was like, okay, then yeah, I'm going to sign me up for that.
Exactly. And a lot of people, need that because unfortunately they didn't plan or things happened in life where the money was going other places and they weren't able to put it away. So now they need something like that.
Yes, yes. And and I talked to people about this. Actually, just talked to one friend of mine recently, and he was actually very grateful because when he was back in his 20s, someone came to him and said, you should get life insurance. And he's like I'm 25, what do I need life insurance for? He's like, trust me, just get it. And he's in his 50s now, and he has some health issues where he probably would not be able to get any of that right now. But once the time to actually get a lot of this stuff is when you're younger because it's a lot cheaper, and but also the compounding effect of if it's placed in the correct vehicle, it's one of those, if, how many people spend $40 or $50 a month on, they don't even know what they spend it on, right? But what if you what if you're like 20 years old, 21 years old, out of college, and you just put $50 a month away? Like, you'll have a substantial amount by the time you're 65. Like, you could actually, and there's vehicles, like, how incredible is this? Vehicles you can put it in, and when you take it out, it's tax free. Like, that's like, what? Like,
Even
who,
better.
right? Like, who never, they don't tell us about this stuff, right? But it's out there, and it's like anything else. Like, once you know, you can't unknow it. And like, for me, that's just like, I know it now, and I just gotta tell everybody. It's just like, whatever people want to do with it is fine. But I think it's my purpose now. Just, hey, let me tell you about this. If you want to, learn more, happy to educate you. But I didn't know about it until, like I said, a couple of years ago, which is pretty incredible.
And I think there's one more thing that would be good to discuss. So, you probably didn't know this coming on, but I'm also an insurance agent.
Ah, okay.
Think there's something that is important about life insurance that not everyone has. It's really important, and that's the living benefits.
Absolutely.
That, especially like your gentleman that as younger he was okay, but now he's older, he's having health issues, and if that became serious,
Yeah, yeah, and that's a lot of like, yeah, the living benefits. It's kind of newish in a way. So there's some people who have some old life insurance, the older version that doesn't have that. So that's definitely something to check in if you have life insurance. Like, I'm not sure. Yeah, but the living benefits are there. So if you have a chronic illness, you get critically injured. Even now, certain ones cover Alzheimer's, cancers, and it's money that the life insurance company can give you either in a lump sum or it could come monthly, but it's money you can use now as you're going through what you're going through. And unlike something that's specifically to long-term care, I mean, if you got money if you had a right to long-term care, that money has to go toward your care. But the money that you're getting from your living benefits could be used to pay for your mortgage, food. Like, it's not funneled into a certain thing. So it's really mind blowing of what's available out there. And if I think there's so many people who have those GoFundMe's out there right now, right? But if they had these living benefits, life insurance with the living benefits, they wouldn't have to do that. They would have that money right there.
exactly.
Hmm.
So I wanted to go back in your story, that surprise of the divorce. So many times you hear of it being the other way around, where it's the man that's surprised, like the wife has been telling him, I'm unhappy and I'm unhappy and I'm happy, and
Hmm.
still surprised when this happens, but it's not as common the other way around. So when you had that surprise and you had to adapt and change, What were some of the things you used to encourage yourself, to boost yourself up, to help you get through that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I I had a lot of support around me. I had a lot of support from my parents. I had close friends who were very supportive, and I just I think for me it was, even though it definitely was hurtful, but the catalyst was, well, I guess I'm glad I don't have to spend the rest of my life with someone who doesn't want to be with me. Almost, in a way, like it's like, okay, now I know. And during that time, during that time, I actually was going through, and this is actually very interesting when I look back at it, but especially like the body and somatic wise, like a couple years before the divorce, I was going through a lot of anxiety and panic attacks, and I'm like, well, I was hitting like a perimenopause and I knew I was hitting menopause early, and so I definitely thought it was hormonal. But as I look back, I'm like, it had, I say it was a surprise, but I think there was a sense that my body knew something was off. Like I could feel something was off, and it was feeling that anxiety, like something's about to happen, and because interesting enough, after the divorce, the panic attack stopped. I did have some other hormonal health issues I had to address, but it was very interesting how that happened. So I think to answer your question, I think being I think being a massage therapist helped me as well, because my understanding of energy and how breathing and meditation too, those were tools that I used. And I also just allowed myself to feel all that I had to feel, even though it was really uncomfortable. So, I cried a lot, but I let those tears flow, because I remember sitting down one in time and, excuse me, I was like, I think these tears are a Windex for my soul. Like every time I cried, I felt just a little bit clearer. There was more clarity. There was less holding on to things. So allowing myself also to be vulnerable to share with other people what I was feeling was very healing for me. I didn't keep it all in.
Yeah. And that's important that you had that support also, that you could share those things with people, and doing the meditation, the breathing, those things, no matter what the crisis, are so beneficial for people.
Yes, yeah, it's and definitely reaching out for support. Even if you don't have close friends, there are a lot of groups. I did go to which was actually very beneficial to me too. Was, ironically enough, there was a church across the street from me that I never really thought too much of. It wasn't in the denomination, but the year that I was going through divorce, there was a huge sign out there that said something like divorce recovery. I'm like, oh my goodness, right? Talk about a sign. So I went to a few of those, and it helped me understand. And then what I also did, kind of following the breadcrumbs, I also I took to be certified as a certified divorce coach, kind of. But it wasn't meant for anything for me to actually offer to the public. It was more for my healing. And what I got from that, and I think that was really, and I'll share this here because that was a big catalyst for me in my healing, and for people listening, if they're going through a divorce, either men or women. As one of my big things is when my ex came to me, and he was just very stoic, like when he said it, like kind of emotionless in a way. And it was really surprising to me. I'm like, how how can you be this way? Like, there's no emotions. And like, but what I learned when I was going through that coaching was the person who instigates a divorce has already gone through the whole grief. Like and it could have been, he could have been going through this a couple of years ahead beforehand, right? Once he decided, he had been already through the process. So by the time they come to the spouse and in the family, they've already kind of gone that little arc of the grief. Like they're coming over on the other side almost. So they're at a different level of it. So it does seem like they're emotionless or that, but they have already kind of they've processed most of it, right? Whereas the other person that's hearing about it is just getting snapped in the face with it. And for me, that helped me in that forgiveness mode as well. It's like, all right, I understand that, I could see that. And also to me, it also signified that it wasn't a spur of the moment decision. Mm-hmm. Right. Like if it was a spur of the moment, it would have maybe been more emotional on their side, but because they hadn't even processed it themselves. So I just wanted to share that because that was really news to me, and it helped me in my healing going forward.
Yeah, it's very insightful, and it's good to remember because we don't know what's happening inside the other person's head ever.
All
We
right.
can go by what's being said, the tone of voice, but we don't know, like you said, what they've already processed or what they were thinking or anything like that. And that's important to remember in any communication. So I wanted to ask more about when you work with women on like the health piece and the other things you work with.
Yeah. So part of the transformation I was talking about when I went through the women's coaching program, it was actually a Layla Martin's sex, love, and relationship coaching. So it's a year-long program, and the first 6 months was really a deep dive into yourself. And then I really started connecting with more of my femininity, more of my sensuality, just coming back into just parts of me that I think I lost or pushed aside, raising children and doing all, kind of running a household and being more in like a masculine energy, just losing that softness about me, or that magnetism in a way. And so that was really something that it gave me a lot of more self-confidence and kind of more of a presence, and feeling like I want to like my body is now like shoulders back, more of it. I felt more expansive, like feeling like when I walk into a room, I'm actually making a presence, not, hey, look at me, but energetically wise, because I just felt better in my body and in myself and in my the way I was showing up in my life. So
You're taking up space. You're now taking up space.
exactly. And
Maybe you
and
weren't just
I don't know if you know this, and this is like this kind of blew my mind, because that work, and also with my massage, I was really drawn to womb work and like pelvic health. And in my studies, I learned that in the embryonic stage, the cervix and the thorax are one. And as as the baby grows, they apart and they become separate. But it made so much sense to me, because as I connected more to my sensuality, I got a voice. and it also goes the other way around. Like, if you're more out, you can feel free to speak, then you feel more free in your sensuality. And that kind of blew my mind. I'm like, that makes so much sense, because a lot of women who are shut down sexually are shut down in their voice. They can't express themselves. They shrink down. They become small. They make themselves small, but that's not who you were meant to be. It's, and the body's just telling you that. It's how, it's like the way it was made. It's not supposed to be that way.
Exactly. And I'm trying to think how I want to phrase this question. I'm going to phrase it by saying, how can women step into their power, their full feminine, their full sensuality, their full.
Mm, yeah, there's, I don't know if there's a right answer for everyone because everyone has had different experiences. And, a lot of, you know, a lot of trauma has a lot to do with how a woman can show up fully in their sexuality. But I think what I would really say is really to take, like, for me, it comes down to when I get too busy and I feel like I'm getting more into this go 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 and just do kind of stuff. That's when I'm like, all right, I'm going to take out my tarot cards. I'm going to take out my incense. I'm going to take out my drum. I'm going to take out my bath time. I'm going to take, some self care, whether it's, I go and get, I don't do my nails because it's massage, but, I go get a pedicure. I do something that really lights me up for me. And whatever that is, go out into nature. Something that something I can just be at. I'm not doing, I'm just being. And that for me, and I think is the first step is allowing yourself that permission to go and do that for yourself. Creating more boundaries, I think, in your life as well. I think I'm definitely a recovering people pleaser, and still comes up sometimes for me when I agree to something and I don't want to do it. But being very clear of your boundaries and sticking to them, and it's all, as I'm learning more and more, like anything else in this life, it's all a mindset as well. So if you it's one of those things, if you believe you can, you can. If and if you think you can't, you're right. So it's just changing that belief system of going from, oh, it's selfish of me to take this time away from family to do something for me, or, oh, I'll do it later when everything else is taken care of, or those people need my help, so I'm going to go help them even though I have 100 other things to do. Like, it's stopping all that chatter and really coming back to yourself, your heart. Heart, and I guess for me also, is the remembrance of hand on heart, hand on womb space, and connecting those two and really grounding down into the moment and what is right for you right now and how that feels for you, and allowing that chatter of, if you don't do this, then it means this. So to answer your question, I don't have a real right answer. There's a lot of aspects to it depending on a person's situation. But I think it just comes more from giving the awareness of coming from the do and push into the being and the nurturing part of yourself.
So, on my platform, I talk about visualizing happiness in every area of your life, and I do help people in different areas because of my background in therapy. Um, Anywhere from, like you said, the money, the health, the relationships, whatever that is. So you also have a whole deck of cards when it comes to things that you do or things you help people with. So how do you integrate those things? What are some of the things that you offer for people?
Yeah, right now for me, it's focusing. My the women I'm working with now are more are me like 10 years ago. going through a big life transition. It doesn't have to be divorce. It could be something else, any big life transition. And again, making sure that they are secure, basically in their root center, right? They want to move out of the survival. You want to move from surviving to thriving, right? So that, I think that's the first, basically kind of up the chakra system. Like layer one, we got to be secure in our foundation, right? So what's the finances and stuff like that look like? And then, depending on, sometimes that's all women need. And then they're like, good, I got this confidence, I can go. Like me, my journey kind of, I think, went the opposite way. I think I started with maybe the sexuality, then it came up to the power, then it opened my heart, and then I went down to the root. But what I'd like to focus on is kind of more of a logical, expression up. But if a woman's already fine in her finances, she's got, it's cool, but I really have no confidence in my ability to, run my business or something. Okay, so I want to teach her to moving, not, I don't want to say moving out of the masculine energy, because I love the masculine energy, and we all have that in us. And the feminine energy isn't just all soft and candles and all. There's strength, there's courage, there's that priestess goddess, right? She's no, you don't mess with that. So how can you connect? It's almost like connecting back to that, and also seeing the power of that, right? So you don't have to act like a man. If you're a woman, you already have that power within you as a woman. Like you freaking can create life. Like no one can mess with that. So connecting back to that and believing in that could actually, you can use that to move forward in your business and run your business and be successful. You don't have to do what men do to be successful. You already have that. You already have it within you in that feminine way. You just need to see it as power and not as a problem.
Exactly. And we were talking earlier about massage. Now, I've met people who they have never had a massage. I
Right.
I I have had so many massages because I think they're just like amazing. But what are some of the what's important about having a massage? Why would we want to have a massage?
Yeah. So many ways. And there's so many different types. I over the years, I've gone from like, oh, we got to dig in there and get everything out, to more the understanding of, you know what, let's just settle the nervous system down, because if you do that, the whole body will heal. So that's where I don't do as much massage now, but that's where I was going. It was just helping the nervous system to regulate. So that's why I would get a massage, because there's so much things out in the world that bombard us, and we're constantly overstimulated, that creates such dis-ease in the body, whether it's in the physical, the mental, a lot of mental stuff. It's because our nervous system is so dysregulated. And I think that was really the main reason for massage too, was like relaxation. And it was kind of put on, and then it came like the deep tissue and the Rolfing and all that. And then, that's all wonderful for certain things, but I think nowadays people just need to relax. They need to come back into their bodies. They have to feel safe coming back into their bodies. And also for touch, I think we are in a world now of such separation, and right now we're over Zoom, which is wonderful, right? But sometimes this is all people do all day long, and they don't even talk to another human being face to face, other again like touch. And especially for women, like we need touch. Like that's what's that, something like a hug should last for like, I don't know, 20 or 30 seconds or something to like really get the benefits of it. So that's what I would massage for. regulation of your nervous system, to bring touch back, to bring connection back with another human being. Yeah, that's what I would say are very beneficial ways why you should get it.
Well, if people wanted to connect with you, where do they connect with you? What services are you offering right now at this point? And where do they find them?
Yes. Well, I'm a couple things. I'm in social media, so on Facebook, on Deanne Broggi. Instagram, I'm under the Unbridled Woman, and my website is deannerose.net. So my married name was Rose, and then I'm finally going back to Broggi. My oldest daughter's actually getting married in a couple months, so I figured, well, she's going to change her last name. It's time for me to go back to that. And also, I had some numerology done, and I found out that Deanne Rose was very nurturing and very giving, which made sense because that was my mothering years. But Deanne Lee Broggi, my given name, was very abundant and receiving and powerful. So I was like, okay, how powerful would that be, taking my birth name, the innocence and all that, and add in the wisdom of all my years until now? Like, that's going to be, pretty darn amazing. So that's why we're changing that.
Awesome. Well, now I have a personal question.
Hmm.
What gives you the most happiness and fulfillment in your life at this point?
Oh gosh, there's so many things, but for me, it's when I actually realize the miracle of life. Like when I actually stop and like I was saying before, just be and look around me and see how life is just a miracle, and our problems are so minuscule to the magic all around us, and that brings me happiness. That brings me peace, and it also brings me hope that um, there's hope out of some of this chaos that we're going through, and it's all going to be okay. And then also my partner and my dogs and my my friends.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast and for being so transparent and sharing your stories and your
Yes,
wisdom.
thank you. Thank you for having me. It was an honor.
Yeah, so I have one last question before we finish.
Hmm.
What is your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
Mm. I guess what comes to mind is just don't take yourself so seriously. It's,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Thank you so much, Deanne.
Thank you. Thank you.
Again soon.
Thanks.